My name is Lydia Forrester, and this is the story of how I discovered that sometimes losing everything can lead to finding the one thing that truly matters. When Benedict Aldridge knelt before me that fateful autumn morning, his face etched with guilt and anguish, my entire world crumbled like ancient parchment in the wind. Lydia, we must dissolve our marriage. His voice trembled with what I mistook for genuine remorse. Cordelia has returned to the capital. I had promised her long ago that she would be my one and only wife. The words struck me like lightning, my vision blurred with unshed tears, and my mind reeled in confusion. I jerked my hand away from his pleading grasp, my voice barely steady. "So I am not even worthy to serve as your concubine?" "Your noble birth forbids such degradation," he replied, though his words felt hollow as an empty well. "Dissolution is the proper course. I have already arranged a suitable match for you. You shall marry Lord Dorian, the Crown Prince's younger brother, and become his consort." His next words cut deeper still. "You once said you would do anything for me. This is the only favor I shall ever ask. If my father believes the dissolution was your idea, he will not permit Cordelia to enter our household. Lydia, I beg this of you alone. Benedict and I had grown up together like saplings in the same garden, our betrothal arranged since childhood. How could all those years pale before a single chance encounter with Cordelia Westwood at a spring festival? I had treasured him like the rarest jade, while he regarded me as worn leather, fit only for discarding. This was the man I had loved for more than a decade. During our 3 years of marriage, he had treated me with cold indifference, making it clear on countless occasions that I could never measure up to his beloved Cordelia. Each slight had carved deeper wounds in my heart until I felt like a vessel riddled with holes. I was exhausted beyond measure. I had debased myself long enough. For the final time, I summoned what remained of my dignity, lifting my chin to meet his gaze with newfound pride. "Benedict Aldridge, perhaps I never loved you as deeply as I imagined. Let us part ways and owe each other nothing. It is for the best." My father had been a wandering scholar before his death when I was 3. Lord Edmund Aldridge had taken me into his household, where I had lived ever since. From childhood, everyone in the manor had treated me as Benedict's future bride, everyone except Benedict himself. He had told me repeatedly throughout our youth, "Lydia, I do not care for you and never shall. You must abandon such foolish hopes." Yet his actions often contradicted his words. Like scenes from popular romances, there had been heroic rescues, osmanthus cakes brought through driving rain when I was ill, and long nights when he tended to me during fever. Though he rejected my advances, he always apologized afterward, claiming it was merely bashfulness on his part. As a daughter of the martial world, I possessed natural boldness. When he retreated one step, I simply advanced 2. This continued until that spring festival, when he rescued Cordelia from drowning. For the first time, I witnessed genuine desire kindle in his eyes, a look he had never bestowed upon me. In that moment, I understood that his heart held no place for me whatsoever. But Cordelia had married another man. I dared to hope that perhaps my time had come. After Benedict fell gravely ill following her departure from the capital, he grasped my hand upon awakening and said, "Lydia, let us marry." On our wedding night, I waited with trembling anticipation, only to have him pin me beneath him while calling out Cordelia's name in his delirium. My own husband had spoken another woman's name during our first intimate moment. Afterward, he apologized and promised to forget Cordelia. I convinced myself that our childhood bond would eventually triumph, that my devotion would melt his heart. I even went so far as to abandon my natural temperament, mimicking Cordelia's mannerisms, and dress in a desperate attempt to win his affection. During our 3-year marriage, he never touched me intimately, save for one incident 2 months prior. Cordelia had written to him requesting aid, arranging a secret meeting. When I discovered this, jealousy and resentment consumed me. I followed them and witnessed her bruised and battered form as she collapsed into Benedict's embrace. In that moment, I saw a tenderness in his expression that I had never inspired. I realized then that he was perfectly capable of compassion. I simply was not its object. That night, while he comforted her through until dawn, I kept vigil over both of them beneath the cold moon, my heart crystallizing like frost. I decided to release them from this web of misery. The next day brought news that Benedict had fallen ill again in the plum garden. When I hurried to his side, he confessed everything, assuring me that Cordelia had departed and they would have no further contact. Yet I sensed that I remained merely a substitute in his affections, cast aside when she appeared, beckoned back like a faithful hound when she left. I had buried myself in the mud for the smallest corner of his heart. Now he was turning away entirely. After his recovery, he sought my forgiveness. Though I typically held my wine well, that evening I found myself unconscious after only a few cups. I awoke disheveled in his arms while he wept and begged my pardon. Foolish girl that I was, I reminded myself that we were husband and wife. What need was there for apologies between us? 2 months later, Cordelia returned to the capital in earnest. She had obtained her own divorce papers and found Benedict, declaring her regret over leaving him. Benedict belonged to Cordelia. I was merely a shameless usurper. They were destined lovers. What place did I have in such a tale? I was exhausted beyond endurance. Let them have their dissolution. What I did not tell him was that I was with child. Since he loved Cordelia so completely, I reasoned that the life growing within me would matter little to him. I sought out Lord Edmund and informed him of my decision to seek dissolution, claiming I no longer loved Benedict. Lord Edmund's teacup shattered against the floor in his shock as he repeatedly asked whether Benedict had mistreated me. Indeed, he had. He had crushed my heart and destroyed my capacity for love, dependence, and trust. Yet I stubbornly told Lord Edmund only that we had never consummated our marriage in 3 years, concealing that single night of confusion. When he refused my request and summoned Benedict for explanation, I watched my husband's guilty glance in my direction. He was not ignorant of my feelings. He simply had already given his heart to Cordelia, leaving nothing for me. "Father," Benedict said quietly, "forced melons lack sweetness. Perhaps we should honor Lydia's wishes." I laughed bitterly at his easy acquiescence. For the first time, I truly saw Benedict for what he was, merely another flawed man. I would consider this my repayment to the Aldridge household for their years of care. Though Lord Edmund's eyes blazed with fury at my determination, I took the dissolution papers and refused to remain another moment in that house. Benedict escorted me to the courtyard, where a carriage waited. He pressed a thick stack of banknotes into my hands. "Lydia, do not be afraid. Lord Dorian was wounded in battle years ago and cannot perform his marital duties. You are merely changing residences. If you ever miss home, you may return at any time." "Since you have cast me aside," I replied, speaking harshly to him for the first time, "why do you now feign tenderness to shake my resolve?" His expression flickered with surprise at my sharp tone. I drew the carriage curtains closed as we began the smooth journey to the prince's manor. The estate was vast and elegant, befitting its master's reputation. I had heard much of Lord Dorian's notoriety, a complete libertine who had supposedly scandalized his late parents, now living as the sole occupant of this grand residence. Upon entering the courtyard, I glimpsed the famous Lord Dorian himself, lounging in the afternoon sun. Clad in crimson silk with sleeves that caught the breeze like flower petals, He radiated an aura of indolent grace, even with his eyes closed. The rumors of his beauty had not been exaggerated. "You have arrived?" Lord Dorian opened his eyes to reveal luminous amber irises that seemed to hold all the warmth of summer wine, though they regarded me with cool detachment like snow upon distant peaks. He dismissed all servants with a wave before fixing his gaze upon my tear-swollen eyes. A mocking smile curved his lips. "How utterly wretched you look." He reclined again, studying me with lazy interest. "Are you aware that Benedict and I struck a bargain? Your entry into this household secured him the position of Purple Banner Marquise." "I am aware," I replied evenly. My love for Benedict might have made me foolish, but not completely witless. Perhaps my composed reaction surprised him, for his mocking expression deepened. "Foolish creature," he drawled. "Indeed, quite foolish," I agreed. "However, your lordship received poor value in this exchange. Not only am I previously married, but the child I carry will only bring shame to your household." Lord Dorian's surprise was unmistakable. "Does he know of your condition? Yet still he sent you here?" "I did not inform him," I said simply. "There was no need." Lord Dorian studied me intently before releasing a derisive snort. "Foolish." Whether this judgment applied to me or Benedict remained unclear. "Do you understand why he sent you to this manor?" he inquired. "I do. I never accept losses, nor do I bear responsibilities without compensation. Henceforth, you shall tend the gardens here." His meaning was crystal clear. I would never truly become his consort. Butler Harrison, a kindly-faced man who showed no disdain for my awkward position, escorted me to view potential quarters. I requested somewhere quiet and secluded, regardless of how remote. "As you wish," Lord Dorian said with characteristic nonchalance. "Simply ensure you do not kill my flowers." Butler Harrison proved to be a compassionate guide, explaining Lord Dorian's preferences and household rules with patience. The prince enjoyed sleeping late and despised morning disturbances, so I need not attend him too early. He also outlined various protocols and restrictions, which I carefully memorized. He informed me that garden staff received 20 tiles of silver monthly, plus 4 sets of clothing annually, 2 light and 2 heavy. Since winter garments had not yet been prepared, he provided me with 2 lighter sets for now. Though isolated, my assigned quarters were clean and furnished with adequate bedding. Since it was my first day, Butler Harrison suggested I rest and familiarize myself with the grounds, beginning my duties on the morrow. After he departed, I ventured out to visit the local apothecary. I purchased herbs for inducing miscarriage. In the past, discovering I carried Benedict's child would have brought joy. Now, I desired only to begin a new life, unburdened by the past. These years of obsession had trapped me in self-imposed exile, following Benedict's shadow while forgetting my own identity. Just as I emerged from the apothecary, rain began to fall. I hurried back to the manor through the downpour, borrowing a brazier to brew the medicinal tea in my quarters. The physician had warned that the process would be quite painful. As the anticipated agony seized me, I curled into myself, my consciousness gradually fading. In my delirium, I thought I glimpsed a figure in crimson robes rushing anxiously toward me. When I awakened, morning light streamed through the windows. A young maidservant attending me immediately ran out upon seeing me stir. Moments later, Lord Dorian entered, dragging a chair to my bedside with obvious irritation. "Lydia Forrester, are you completely witless?" he demanded with supreme disdain. "Do you not know whether you are with child or not? Had my pet magpie not flown into your courtyard, this manor would have become a house of death." "I was not with child?" I asked in bewilderment. Though I had never experienced pregnancy before, my body showed no signs of the trauma I had expected. yet my monthly courses had definitely been delayed. What manner of quack physician did you consult? Lord Dorian's tongue was as sharp as ever. He suddenly leaned forward, bringing his face close to mine. His beauty was truly breathtaking. Those slightly upturned eyes seemed to capture all the world's radiance. Not only were you not pregnant, but you remain untouched by any man. I stared at him in confusion. Spare me that expression, he said with a dismissive wave. I have no interest in you whatsoever. A female physician examined you. But that is impossible, I murmured, trying to piece together the puzzle. What exactly had occurred that night when I awoke in Benedict's arms? He had certainly allowed me to believe we had been intimate. It appears Benedict Aldridge suffers from certain inadequacies, Lord Dorian observed with wicked amusement. I found it rather ironic that someone with his own rumored afflictions would make such comments, though I held my tongue. My days at the prince's manor proved surprisingly peaceful. I tended flowers, watered plants, and performed various light duties. Of course, this tranquility was merely the calm before the storm. Since Lord Dorian preferred sleeping late without disturbance, his personal servants remained in the outer courtyard. Gradually, I found myself serving tea, preparing writing materials, and attending to numerous other tasks. Though I performed servant's work, I was not truly treated as such within the manor. I attempted to minimize my presence and conduct myself properly. Yet Lord Dorian possessed an uncanny ability to provoke my temper. Despite years of practicing patience in the Aldridge household, he invariably found ways to break through my composure. He seemed to derive great pleasure from witnessing my indignation. Whenever he succeeded in angering me, he would deliver some casual remark like, "Where has that fierce spirit gone that once thrashed me when we were 10? Even the wooden posts in this courtyard possess more interesting personalities than you." At age 10, this lord had already terrorized the capital. He and several other young rascals had cornered Benedict, who proved no match for them. I had intervened on Benedict's behalf. I still remembered Lord Dorian in his purple robes, pointing an accusatory finger at me and declaring, "Lydia Forrester, you are blind." Indeed, I had been utterly blind. In those early years, my nature had been quite spirited, carrying the untamed essence of the martial world. I climbed trees, seeking birds' nests, caught fish with my bare hands, engaged in street fights with the neighborhood dogs, and even disguised myself as a boy to drink wine in pleasure houses while admiring the beautiful courtesans. Only after marrying Benedict had I gradually suppressed these inclinations, molding myself into a more conventional form. Looking back now, such self-denial seemed profoundly foolish. "Lydia Forrester," Lord Dorian said with raised eyebrows, "you are the only person who has ever pinned me down and beaten me. If I do not avenge this humiliation, I shall write my name backwards." The memory made me laugh despite myself. "And how does your lordship intend to exact revenge?" Lord Dorian preened like a peacock displaying its plumage, favoring me with a distinctly ominous smile. One day, when a new restaurant opened in the city, Lord Dorian and I visited together. Before departing, he tossed me a wide-brimmed hat to wear. The establishment was crowded with his acquaintances, many curious to glimpse the face beneath my hat. Lord Dorian sent each inquirer away with a single word: "Scram!" When the server described the menu items, most of which were sweet, Lord Dorian frowned. "She dislikes sweet foods. Bring only one or two such dishes, then prepare everything else on your menu." I was momentarily stunned. After years of marriage, Benedict had never noticed my distaste for sweets. Yet Lord Dorian had observed this detail within days of my arrival. My heart warmed unexpectedly at this thoughtfulness. "But surely an entire menu is excessive for just 2 people," I protested. "We cannot possibly consume so much." Lord Dorian glanced at me sideways. "Are you attempting to economize on my behalf?" Before I could respond, he told the server, "Follow her suggestion." When I excused myself briefly, I neglected to wear my hat and immediately encountered Lord Edmund and Lady Charlotte in the corridor. They ushered me into their private dining room. Lord Edmund clearly knew I had emerged from Lord Dorian's chamber, and his expression grew grave. "Lydia," he said with paternal concern, "you have lived in our household since childhood, and we have cherished you as our own daughter. If you and Benedict truly lack compatibility, we would never force the matter. However, your association with Lord Dorian will severely damage your reputation. How will you ever marry properly in the future?" "Indeed," Lady Charlotte added, "these past days I have had Benedict inquire after your welfare, hoping to bring you home, but we could never locate you." I suddenly felt like a complete fool, realizing how I had been manipulated. As the elderly couple continued their well-meaning lectures about returning to the proper path, a terrible clarity dawned upon me. Why should I continue protecting Benedict's reputation while allowing myself to suffer? Lord Edmund and Lady Charlotte had raised me, not Benedict himself. Having reached this understanding, I revealed everything that had truly transpired during my marriage. Both elders' faces transformed with shock and horror. I knelt before them and performed 3 formal bows. "Your kindness in raising me remains forever in my heart, and these feelings will not change regardless of Benedict's actions. However, I beseech you to respect my wishes in this matter." As I departed their chamber, I felt a tremendous weight lift from my chest. Apparently, refusing to suppress oneself brought such liberation. My life at the prince's manor differed vastly from my experience in the Aldridge household, primarily because Lord Dorian's existence was remarkably colorful. Though he held an official court position, otherwise Benedict could never have negotiated for the Purple Banner Marquise title, I had never witnessed him attending morning court sessions during my residence there. I once diplomatically suggested he might wish to appear more diligent. He responded by presenting me with a stack of administrative achievements, accompanied by the observation, "Exceptional talent requires no excessive effort, lest such brilliance attract unwanted attention and invite disaster." Truly his style entirely. Sometimes he would conscript servants to entertain him, though their deference prevented genuine enjoyment. Butler Harrison, despite his kindly nature, lacked the energy for such activities due to his advanced age. Consequently, I often found myself volunteered for various diversions. Cricket fighting, I lost. Leaf card games, I lost again. Arrow throwing, still lost. I successfully gambled away everything I possessed, including 10 years' worth of future wages. Lord Dorian was insufferably smug about his victories, while Butler Harrison chuckled benevolently and generously lent me 20 taels. Determined to redeem myself, I challenged him to another 300 rounds. This time, I won. Lord Dorian had deliberately allowed my victory. Though his performance was subtle, I detected his deception. Essentially, he possessed a soft heart beneath his sharp tongue. "I have news for you," he announced casually while sipping tea. "Benedict has been impeached for embezzling disaster relief funds to impress his beloved. He has been demoted and punished." I quickly calculated the timeline. He held the Purple Banner Marquis position for only 2 months. "Indeed," Lord Dorian nodded. "I warned him previously that his abilities were insufficient for such responsibility." I had expected to feel some melancholy at this news, yet instead experienced a guilty pleasure at his downfall. "If you wish to laugh, then laugh," Lord Dorian observed. "Why suppress such natural reactions?" I did indeed find the situation quite amusing. Shaking the silver I had won, I proposed, "Your lordship, would you honor me by allowing me to purchase you wine in celebration?" "Very well." By unfortunate coincidence, my celebration drinks intersected with Benedict's drowning sorrows. Lydia. Benedict stared in amazement at me chatting and laughing with Lord Dorian. The prince had just related an amusing court incident that left me breathless with mirth while he patted my back with obvious distaste to help me recover. Cordelia was present as well. She had been attempting to capture Benedict's attention when she spotted Lord Dorian and froze completely, her eyes reflecting undisguised fascination. Lord Dorian's appearance was truly catastrophic in its perfection. Few could resist such devastating beauty. Benedict's expression darkened as he fixed his gaze upon me. My thoughts, however, had wandered elsewhere entirely. I recalled stories from pleasure house courtesans about miraculous remedies that could restore masculine vigor, enabling men to satisfy 10 women in a single night. Perhaps Lord Dorian had simply never considered such possibilities. I should discreetly inquire about such treatments on his behalf. Cordelia, allow me to present my sister, Lydia Forrester, Benedict said, though his eyes remained locked on me with unmistakable displeasure. He clearly expected me to appear miserable following our separation, not thriving, as I obviously was. Sister Lydia. Cordelia approached with feigned warmth, though her attention remained fixed on Lord Dorian. He immediately frowned and stepped behind me, making no attempt to disguise his revulsion. Lydia, I am terrified of dogs, he announced loudly. Please protect me from being bitten by rabid creatures. His familiar use of my given name sent unexpected tremors through my heart. Both Benedict and Cordelia's faces darkened simultaneously at the obvious insult. Your lordship's noble status makes such crude language rather undignified, Benedict observed stiffly. I cannot help it if certain individuals insist on identifying themselves with my descriptions, I retorted before I could stop myself. Now that love had been completely burned away, only disgust remained. Lord Dorian laughed openly at my response. Lydia speaks most wisely, he declared before we entered the restaurant together, leaving the pair behind. I gave little thought to encountering Benedict at the restaurant. Instead, I felt rather regretful. Why had he initiated our divorce, rather than allowing me to request it first? It was like losing an argument only to think of perfect comebacks after returning home, then desperately wishing to refight the entire confrontation. Lord Dorian and I ordered lavishly and drank extensively until I collapsed unconscious at our table. Through my stupor, I dimly perceived him approaching unsteadily, heard him murmur my name, and glimpsed myself reflected in his languorous amber eyes, then cool lips pressed against mine, sending electric shivers throughout my entire body. I awoke in terror, finding myself back in my own quarters properly clothed and clean. When I encountered Butler Harrison, he explained that both Lord Dorian and I had become intoxicated the previous evening, requiring him and a maidservant to escort us home. Lord Dorian remained unconscious, so I need not attend him early. Relief flooded through me. It had been merely a dream. Lydia Forrester. How depraved had my thoughts become? Life proceeded normally thereafter. Under Lord Dorian's influence, I successfully abandoned the demure facade I had maintained for Benedict's sake, returning to my naturally spirited personality. I ceased imitating Cordelia's mannerisms and rediscovered my authentic self. Butler Harrison observed kindly that this vitality was what befitted a young woman. One significant event occurred during this period. Benedict ultimately married Cordelia. The situation arose when she created a public scandal at the Aldridge household, claiming intimate relations with Benedict. Faced with such disgrace, Benedict had no choice but to wed her despite the circumstances. Lord Edmund fell gravely ill from the stress. When I visited him, Lord Dorian accompanied me. Apparently, the two men required private conversation, leaving me to wait outside. Benedict appeared during this interval, still refusing to accept reality. "Lydia," he said with evident heartbreak and disappointment, "I have finally realized that you are the only woman I have ever truly loved. If you are willing, I will take you away from here. We could travel to the ends of the earth and never part again." "Spilled water cannot be recovered," I replied simply, having no interest in further discourse. My mind was occupied with reaching Miss Rosalie before she ceased receiving clients for the evening, making this encounter an unwelcome delay. "Please wait." Benedict hurried to block my path. "I must speak with you about something important. Cordelia and I have not yet married. My parents refuse their consent." He searched my face desperately. "I do not blame you for anything. Even if we cannot be husband and wife, you remain my most cherished sister. However, Lord Dorian is not a good man. He has betrayed agreements and orchestrated my downfall behind the scenes. My loss of the Purple Banner Marquise position." "Lord Dorian is not a good man." The prince's amused voice drifted down from an elevated walkway. He stood above us with characteristic indolence, his amber eyes sweeping the scene with lazy interest before settling on me. Though I had done nothing wrong, his unexpected appearance filled me with inexplicable guilt. Benedict's face flushed dark with embarrassment as he instinctively moved to shield me. "Were you not the one who delivered me to Lord Dorian's household initially?" I asked quietly, my disgust evident. "What role do you play now as the concerned protector?" His hypocrisy was nauseating. I observed Benedict's shoulders stiffen at my words. Ignoring his reaction entirely, I pushed past him and ascended toward Lord Dorian. "Young sir, you appear quite handsome." One of the prince's companions began approaching me with obvious interest. "What is your relationship to Captain Benedict?" His words were cut short as Lord Dorian kicked him aside with obvious irritation. "Are we drinking or not?" Lord Dorian demanded impatiently. "Drinking, drinking, absolutely!" his friends chorused as they followed him. Despite myself, I smiled at this protective gesture, feeling unexpectedly warmed. I located Miss Rosalie, who immediately recognized my female identity despite my disguise. When I explained my purpose, she smiled knowingly. Such remedies do exist, though their effectiveness varies greatly between individuals. You are welcome to try them. My face burned with embarrassment, though I could hardly clarify the misunderstanding. After expressing gratitude and rising to leave, Miss Rosalie gave me a meaningful look. "Miss Lydia, several court officials visited the Golden Lotus recently. In their cups, they mentioned an incident from 4 months ago. Lord Dorian broke Prince Lysander's leg, causing such an uproar that both His Majesty and the Empress Dowager intervened personally. Somehow, the matter was eventually suppressed. I immediately grasped her implications. Miss Rosalie clearly knew my identity and purpose for visiting, but why reveal Lord Dorian's conflict with Prince Lysander? Was she warning me to beware of the prince's potential retaliation? She offered no further explanation, so I thanked her and departed. Descending the stairs, I discovered Benedict waiting by the main entrance, obviously intending to waylay me. Old patterns died hard. Whenever Cordelia wounded him, he sought comfort from me. I laughed coldly and exited through the rear door instead. Outside, I glimpsed a tall figure leaning casually against the wall. Lord Dorian. His lips curved in amusement, while his eyes held their customary distant coolness. My heart fluttered with the irrational notion that he had waited for me, quickening my steps eagerly. Before I could call out, multiple black-clad figures dropped from the rooftop. In the moonlight, their cold blades gleamed with murderous intent. When a sword pierced my arm as I shielded Lord Dorian, I saw shocked recognition flash in his amber eyes. His expression turned dangerously predatory as his folding fan spun in a deadly arc. Before I could fully comprehend his movements, all the assassins lay motionless on the ground. He swept me into his arms and pounded on the nearest medical clinic door, then dismissed the elderly physician to tend my wounds personally. "Your husband treats you very well, young lady," the white-bearded doctor observed with a kindly smile. Heat flooded my cheeks as I prepared to clarify our relationship, but Lord Dorian responded lazily, "She fears pain." I swallowed my intended explanation. He had not corrected the physician's assumption either. A spring breeze stirred, rippling calm waters into gentle waves. Late at night, alone together, excessive explanations might seem suspicious. At least, that's how I rationalized the situation to myself. Yet, something deep within my heart stirred restlessly, struggling to emerge before I forcibly suppressed it. Consequently, when he carried me back to the manor, I was too distracted to protest that my injured arm did not prevent walking. "Frightened senseless?" he inquired. I regained awareness to find his elegant profile illuminated by night shadows, jaw taut with tension. "No," I managed. "Do not foolishly throw yourself into danger again," he said firmly. "Do you think I am Benedict, requiring your protection? I am perfectly capable of handling such threats. Simply remain behind me. Simply remain behind him." My eyes burned with sudden moisture as panic seized my heart, emotions threatening to spiral beyond control. "But what if you cannot protect yourself?" My voice was barely audible. I thought he hadn't heard. Yet he chuckled softly. "Would you like to test that theory?" Test what? I dared not pursue that thought as my mind grew increasingly chaotic. "Were those assassins sent by Prince Lysander?" I asked, desperately changing the subject. Lord Dorian glanced at me, perhaps surprised by the tremor in my voice, or simply that I possessed such knowledge. "Miss Rosalie mentioned that you broke Prince Lysander's leg 4 months ago, and now he seeks revenge. What caused your conflict? Did he provoke you somehow?" "His existence displeased me, so I beat him," came the characteristic flippant response. Since he clearly preferred not to elaborate, I refrained from pressing further. Exhaustion overcame me, and I fell asleep in his arms. In my dreams, I thought I heard him whisper, "Foolish girl." The next day, I awoke near noon to Butler Harrison's devastating news. Lord Dorian had departed for the southern provinces. The flood relief efforts were originally Captain Benedict's responsibility before his demotion. Prince Lysander recommended that Lord Dorian assume this duty instead. "The prince had already left the palace and sought you out, but you were still sleeping." The timing was obviously suspicious. Assassins attacked us last night, and this morning brought orders to travel south. Clearly a trap, yet Lord Dorian had accepted without hesitation. "How long ago did he depart?" I asked urgently. "Perhaps half an hour," Butler Harrison replied. "Oh, Lord Dorian instructed you to avoid Prince Lysander at all costs." Though I realized Lord Dorian must have his own plans, panic consumed me nonetheless. I needed to hear his explanation directly. Saddling a horse, I raced after him. Beyond the city gates, I encountered Prince Lysander being wheeled by servants, his legs covered with a thin blanket. Had Lord Dorian truly crippled him? Only someone of Lord Dorian's status as the Empress Dowager's nephew could survive such an assault against royalty. "If it is not Captain Benedict." "No, Miss Lydia." Prince Lysander smiled in a way that made my skin crawl, like a predator studying prey. After a perfunctory bow, I attempted to leave, but he spoke again. "Such a pity," Prince Lysander toyed with his jade thumb ring. "You came so very close to becoming mine." Dread filled my stomach as dark possibilities formed. What do you mean by that, Your Highness? I demanded. Prince Lysander merely smiled enigmatically, offering no further explanation. I had no desire to engage with him further. As royalty, any direct confrontation would disadvantage me severely. Continuing my pursuit, I rode far beyond the city, but never caught sight of Lord Dorian's party. Defeated, I returned home. Throughout the journey back, Prince Lysander's words echoed in my mind as fragments of truth began forming a terrible picture. I sent word requesting meetings with both Benedict and Cordelia separately, then arranged to encounter them at the Zhao family estate. Without Benedict present, Cordelia abandoned all pretense, her hatred for me evident in every word. Miss Lydia, given Lord Dorian's rumored impotence, I am quite curious how you managed to serve him properly. Her malice was breathtaking. I smiled sweetly in return. What is the matter? Does Benedict fail to satisfy you adequately? She started in shock, her lovely features contorting with fury. How dare you, Lydia Forrester, she spat. Do not fancy yourself some virtuous woman. You are nothing but discarded goods that Benedict no longer wanted. Never forget that I am the one who made you a cast-off wife. Actually, I should thank you for that intervention, I replied with exaggerated happiness. Otherwise, how would I have encountered such a wonderful man as Lord Dorian? He is handsome, noble, gentle, and devoted exclusively to me, so vastly superior to Benedict in every way. Have you come here merely to provoke me? Cordelia demanded haughtily. I stole Benedict from you once. I could easily steal Lord Dorian as well if I chose. Shall we test that possibility? I feigned surprise. But are you not planning to marry Benedict? Do you no longer care for him? Would you prefer to return him to me? I begin to understand. Benedict was always your backup plan, was he not? So what if he was? She snapped. I am simply pursuing better prospects for my happiness. If Benedict truly loves me, he should support my ambitions. Besides, he chose to love me. I never begged for his affection. I stepped sideways slightly, revealing the figure who had been concealed behind me. Benedict stood frozen in the pathway, having never expected to witness such a scene after accepting my invitation. Cordelia looked equally stunned. Thanks to Benedict's character flaws, I understood Cordelia's nature perfectly. Given superior options, she would never choose Benedict. As fellow backup plans, I knew exactly how to inflict maximum damage. You! Benedict's face darkened thunderously. Cordelia Westwood, today I finally see your true nature. I retreated further to lean against an ornamental rock, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. The formerly devoted couple now faced each other with twisted expressions of rage and betrayal. Moreover, they began exposing each other's secrets with vicious enthusiasm. Benedict accused Cordelia of adultery, continuing their affair after her first marriage while pretending innocence to her husband. Cordelia retaliated by calling him equally hypocritical, meeting with her secretly throughout our marriage while maintaining the facade of a faithful spouse. Their argument grew increasingly heated as buried grievances surfaced. I clicked my tongue in amazement. What had I ever seen in Benedict originally? By comparison, Lord Dorian seemed to glow like moonlight itself. Why was I thinking of him again? My thoughts wandered uncontrollably to our life together at the manor. Every moment of joy had been his gift to me. He had taught me to value my authentic self rather than becoming someone else's pale reflection. My heart trembled as I realized the truth. I was falling in love with Lord Dorian. Lydia, we are leaving, Benedict announced after concluding his argument with Cordelia. Lydia Forrester, observe your companion carefully, Cordelia called out vindictively, her relationship with Benedict thoroughly severed. She despised both him and me equally now. Do not let him deceive you again. 4 months ago, he drugged your wine to facilitate a secret meeting with me in the plum garden, using you as unwitting cover. Ice flowed through my veins as terrible understanding dawned. "Explain yourself clearly," I demanded. With Benedict exposed and their alliance destroyed, Cordelia had no reason to protect him. She fixed me with a cruel smile. "When you awakened that morning, did you believe you had been intimate with him?" Benedict's panic was visible as he shouted at Cordelia to remain silent while pleading with me. "Lydia, I will explain everything. Please, let me take you away from here." "You have no idea, do you?" Cordelia continued relentlessly. "The man who violated you that night was Prince Lysander. He had desired you for quite some time, and Benedict even considered trading you to the prince in exchange for political advancement. Unfortunately for them both, Lord Dorian interfered unexpectedly. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Prince Lysander's interest in me, Lord Dorian's sudden intervention in court promotions at that crucial time, his assault on the prince. Everything connected to form a horrifying picture, yet also a strangely hopeful one. Had Lord Dorian? Had he been protecting me all along? My heart pounded violently as this possibility took root. "Lyd!" Benedict began reaching toward me. "Do not touch me!" I recoiled several steps, disgust evident in every line of my body. "You revolt me!" Benedict's eyes filled with anguish. "Forgive me. I truly did not know that drugging your wine would expose you to his assault. I have lived with guilt ever since." "You express regret, yet you committed the act nonetheless," I replied coldly. He didn't deserve to know that I remained untouched. He had forfeited any right to such knowledge. "Benedict Aldridge, you deserve every misfortune that befalls you." Cordelia laughed with malicious satisfaction. Though unaware that her revelation had not produced the intended result, I genuinely despised her. Smiling sweetly, I delivered a parting blow. "Cordelia Westwood, thank you for revealing Benedict's true character. By comparison, Lord Dorian proves himself an exceptionally fine man." Cordelia's expression resembled someone who had swallowed a fly, clearly not the outcome she had anticipated. Following that confrontation, Benedict and Cordelia's relationship disintegrated completely. She systematically destroyed his reputation throughout the capital, while he began desperately pursuing me with renewed intensity. He maintained vigil outside the prince's manor regardless of weather, standing in torrential rain until dawn. He performed acts of dramatic penance, carrying thorny branches and writing blood letters with his own finger. Finally, recognizing my worth precisely when I no longer loved him, his efforts proved futile. I refused all contact and found his persistence utterly irritating. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived from Lord Dorian. Its contents were peculiar, reading like correspondence between devoted spouses rather than our ambiguous arrangement. The message provided a specific address for replies, which seemed to request ongoing communication. Deciding to match his intimate tone, I composed an equally affectionate response and personally delivered it to the designated location. "Lydia, you finally agreed to see me." Benedict appeared as I emerged, wearing a strained smile. His appearance had deteriorated significantly. Gaunt features and hollow eyes, reflecting deep remorse. "Can we not return to how things were before?" he pleaded. "No," I replied firmly, attempting to depart. When he grasped my sleeve, I jerked away and tore off the contaminated fabric in his presence. "Benedict Aldridge, understand this clearly. Whether you wait 5 years or 10, my answer remains unchanged. I no longer love you." "Have you fallen in love with Lord Dorian?" came his desperate question. My heart skipped, but I offered no response and walked away. At the courier station, I noticed Prince Lysander's presence, confirming my suspicions about intercepted correspondence. Returning to the manor filled with anxiety, Uncertain whether my reply had been appropriate, yet fearing the consequences of severing communication, I felt trapped between dangerous possibilities. Fortunately, Lord Dorian's letters continued arriving regularly. His messages evolved from initial restraint to increasingly intimate expressions, eventually including references to starting a family upon his return. Each exchange deepened the deception while forcing me to examine my own feelings. After composing each reply, embarrassment would overwhelm me. I struggled to determine whether my tender words stemmed from strategic necessity or genuine emotion increasingly beyond my control. The correspondence ceased after 2 weeks. Despite waiting another fortnight, no further messages arrived. Unable to bear the uncertainty, I began haunting the courier station daily until Butler Harrison approached with trembling hands and tears streaming down his weathered face. "Miss Lydia," he wept, "Lord Dorian is dead." In that moment, I plummeted into an endless abyss. Darkness engulfed me as invisible hands crushed my throat, consciousness abandoning me entirely. Upon awakening 3 days later, Dr. Vincent Marlowe sat beside my bed, one of Lord Dorian's companions I vaguely recognized, who possessed medical training. "Finally awake?" he observed while packing his instruments. "You remained unconscious for 3 days. Where is he? Have you received any news?" I asked frantically. "In the adjacent room," Dr. Vincent replied matter-of-factly, "though there is no hope of recovery." My mind exploded as I stumbled toward the next chamber where Butler Harrison continued weeping. On the bed lay a pale, motionless figure I recognized despite his deathly pallor. The pain exceeded anything I had ever experienced. "Dorian," I whispered, collapsing beside him. Terror consumed me as suppressed emotions erupted beyond control. "Please do not die. I still have something to tell you. I have not had the chance to say that I—" "Lydia?" His weak voice interrupted my desperate pleading. I raised my tear-stained face to meet his opening eyes, wan but definitely alive, not approaching death as I had feared. "You mentioned having something to tell me," he managed. "What is it?" "Dr. Vincent, now that Lord Dorian has awakened, will he recover fully?" Butler Harrison inquired hopefully. "He will be fine," came the reassuring response. I turned to stare at Dr. Vincent in bewilderment. Lord Dorian also realized the deception, weakly hurling a pillow at his friend. "Why did you frighten her?" Dr. Vincent caught the pillow with obvious amusement. "If you can still throw things, you are clearly recovered." "Get out!" Lord Dorian commanded. Alone together, my embarrassment at overreacting made conversation difficult. "When you write those sticky love letters, you say anything you please," Lord Dorian observed with lazy amusement. "Yet, faced with my actual presence, you become mute?" His teasing tone confirmed his genuine recovery. My cheeks burned. "You initiated that correspondence style. I merely matched your approach." "Ah," he replied with meaningful emphasis. Suddenly, he struggled to sit upright, causing me to rush forward in concern for his wounds. He used my assistance to pull me closer, catching me off guard with a gentle kiss on my forehead. "Does this qualify as matching my approach?" he murmured. I found myself lost in his deep amber gaze, my heart thundering like war drums. Averting my eyes, I mumbled something about preparing medicinal tea and fled hastily, his delighted laughter following my retreat. Lord Dorian's flood relief efforts had proved remarkably successful, and he had gathered evidence of Prince Lysander's assassination attempt to present to the throne. He credited our deceptive correspondence with confusing the prince sufficiently to enable his strategy's success. Prince Lysander was subsequently stripped of titles and confined to house arrest. In my opinion, such punishment seemed insufficient. That very night, I infiltrated the fallen prince's residence and systematically broke both his arms. Now his disabilities matched more symmetrically. Following 3 months of recovery, Lord Dorian resumed his characteristic hedonistic lifestyle, entertaining birds, enjoying music, drinking wine, and playing cards with equal enthusiasm. Occasionally, the emperor would scold him for lacking ambition, criticism he cheerfully ignored while continuing his diversions. Where once I might have encouraged greater diligence, I now recognized his superior wisdom. Navigating imperial power struggles while avoiding suspicion required maintaining this carefully crafted image of harmless frivolity. During this period, Benedict finally married Cordelia after she created a public scandal claiming intimate relations with him. The resulting gossip forced Benedict into marriage, despite his reluctance. Lord Edmund fell seriously ill from stress over these developments. When I visited him at Lord Dorian's invitation, the two men held lengthy private discussions whose content remained mysterious, leaving me curious about their growing rapport. Benedict intercepted me during this visit, still clinging to impossible hopes. "Lydia, I have finally realized you are the only woman I have ever truly loved. If you consent, I will take you far from here, where we can live together forever." "Spilled water cannot be recovered," I replied simply, having lost all patience with his persistent delusions. On Benedict and Cordelia's wedding day, Lord Dorian and I attended the ceremony. During our return journey, he glanced at me appraisingly. Admirable self-control. No tears shed. "As reward for such exemplary behavior, I shall take you to view the Lantern Festival tonight." His assumption amused me greatly. Why would I weep for Benedict now? Since Lord Dorian's return from the southern provinces, our relationship had grown increasingly intimate. He made no attempt to disguise his affections, frequently touching my shoulder, grasping my sleeve, or stealing food from my plate, while Butler Harrison regarded me with growing warmth and acceptance. I had anticipated this development and welcomed his advances, planning to declare my feelings that evening and finally acknowledge what had grown between us. As daughters of the martial world, we faced life boldly, without fear. Yet as we wandered the festival streets, I somehow became separated from him in the crowds. After purchasing a lotus-shaped lantern and composing an appropriately romantic verse, I searched until spotting him across the thoroughfare. He approached through the throng of celebrants. "Lydia Forrester," he called with characteristic arrogance, "I am devastatingly handsome. You should pay closer attention lest some other maiden steal me away, leaving you to weep pitifully." I responded softly while carefully grasping his sleeve and offering my lantern gift. My nervousness exceeded even my wedding day anxiety with Benedict. He fell silent, studying me intently as I held the lantern between us with increasingly aching arms. When he finally accepted it, his arm encircled my waist protectively as he guided me through the crowd. Relief and joy flooded through me as my heart found its resting place at last. He led me to the lakeside, where young couples were launching lanterns on the water. Lord Dorian examined my verse inscription, like delicate dice marked with crimson dots. He leaned close, his mesmerizing amber eyes dancing with mischief. "Lydia Forrester, do I understand your meaning correctly?" "Yes," I confirmed. Having come this far, shyness seemed pointless. "However, I have been previously married. Would marrying me again bring shame to your household?" "What nonsense are you speaking?" He pulled me against his chest fiercely. "Anyone who dares criticize will have their tongue torn out." "But you have your own difficulties," I ventured carefully. "I would not mind that." "My own difficulties?" His expression grew puzzled before understanding dawned. "Ah, you mean my rumored impotence?" I nodded, already having obtained potential remedies in case conventional treatments proved ineffective. "Let us launch the lantern," he suggested with apparent amusement. That night, I witnessed countless lights blooming like stars across the dark water. "Lydia Forrester," Lord Dorian said softly, "will you marry me?" "Yes," I whispered without hesitation. I had not expected our wedding to proceed so swiftly. The next day, he approached Lord Edmund and Lady Charlotte for formal permission. The second day involved preparations. By the third day, I had become his wife in a ceremony both elegant and properly conducted. Later, I learned that during Lord Edmund's illness, Lord Dorian had expressed his matrimonial intentions clearly, arriving with betrothal gifts already prepared well in advance. On our wedding night, he supported himself above me while I offered nervously, "You need not force yourself to perform. Perhaps we should try the medicine first?" Lord Dorian's eyes grew dark with sudden understanding. I pushed against him gently and retrieved the prepared herbal brew. "I understand such matters affect masculine pride deeply, so please do not feel pressured. We can proceed gradually." Finally comprehending the tea's purpose, Lord Dorian's expression turned predatorily intense as he removed the bowl and lifted me onto our bed, his hands working at my ceremonial robes. His voice carried dangerous huskiness. "Lydia Forrester, shall we test my capabilities?" Amid flickering candles and silken curtains, in passion's ebb and flow like boats rocking on gentle waves, I gasped in sudden pain as understanding struck. "You deceived me!" Lord Dorian's face flushed with desire, his amber eyes burning with alarming intensity. "Lydia, I am in pain as well. Endure a little longer. It will improve shortly." After a night of overwhelming intimacy, I slept until late morning, awakening to find Lord Dorian seated across from me with a teacup, looking thoroughly satisfied. He approached and helped me drink half the contents, which tasted surprisingly pleasant. "More, please," I requested, finding the beverage quite agreeable. "Contraceptive tea should taste pleasant," he observed with characteristic humor. I nearly choked in embarrassment, playfully pushing him while my voice carried unconscious sweetness. "You clearly have no difficulties whatsoever. Why did you deceive me?" "Difficulties with what?" Lord Dorian gathered me into his embrace, gently kissing my lips. "With my robust performance?" His shamelessness knew no bounds. As his hands wandered beneath our bed coverings, I captured them with burning cheeks. "Excessive indulgence harms one's health." "My dear wife does not understand. Prolonged restraint proves equally damaging," he murmured, drawing the bed curtains closed around us. We spent 3 blissful days in our chambers before emerging to greet the sun properly, Butler Harrison serving strengthening soup to both of us without favoritism. On our first outing as newlyweds, our carriage collided with another vehicle. When the curtains parted, Benedict and Cordelia sat opposite us, he bearing scratches across his face while she appeared thoroughly miserable. Rumors of their tumultuous marriage had reached us regularly. Their conflicts escalated from minor disagreements to major battles, sometimes involving physical altercations. Benedict had initially refrained from retaliating due to her gender, but eventually abandoned such gentlemanly restraint. Their domestic disputes provided endless entertainment for the capital's gossips. Benedict's eyes brightened hopefully upon seeing me, then immediately dimmed as he noticed the love marks on my throat, evidence of Lord Dorian's passionate attentions the previous evening. "Lyd," he began desperately. "Captain Benedict," Lord Dorian interrupted smoothly, emerging to encircle my waist possessively. "What a coincidence." Cordelia, who had been attempting to reclaim Benedict's attention, froze upon seeing Lord Dorian's devastating beauty. "My Lydia grows hungry," Lord Dorian continued with cold politeness, We shall proceed ahead. After speaking, he lowered his head to capture my lips in a lingering kiss. I responded enthusiastically, wrapping my arms around his neck as passion flared between us. When he finally released me, his amber eyes glowed with satisfaction. "Well done," he praised my performance. I smiled contentedly, settling into his embrace. "Perhaps we should retire early tonight." Lord Dorian's body tensed as his gaze darkened with desire. I quickly clarified with mock seriousness. "Dorian, you still have not told me whether you truly rescued me that night in the plum garden." His expression grew distinctly uncomfortable as he replied evasively, "No, that was not me." I regarded him knowingly. "Very well then. Perhaps I should go." "Dare to finish that sentence," Lord Dorian warned, nipping my lip in gentle punishment. "Little heartless creature." I settled myself completely in his lap, mimicking his earlier kiss with soft touches. "Dorian, let us have a child." His eyes burned with tender intensity as he held me close, and I knew our future stretched before us bright with promise and love.